We have an insane trade rumor to get into that would see Josh Anderson and David Savard getting sent to the Vancouver Canucks in exchange for Anthony Beauvillier, Tyler Myers, and some draft compensation. I'll be getting into this really strange mock trade that I saw. Plus, we have to talk about Mattias Norlinder, and he's actually not going back to Sweden. Apparently, he's staying in Quebec this year. And finally, we'll be talking about the Habs' defensive depth and why the Habs might be looking to trade Mike Matheson within the next season or two. So stick around for this edition of Habs Digest. And before we get into the first topic, talking about this crazy mock trade, a quick reminder to hit subscribe if you haven't already. One of the thousands of people that haven't hit that button but still enjoy our content, we'd really appreciate it if you hit it, so hit it right now. So I saw this on Twitter, and there was a lot of discussion around this. There was a few replies talking about whether they would or whether they wouldn't do it. Now, this isn't an official source. I'll just come out and say this. I mean, it's a mock trade, right? But it still caught my interest, and it's still very intriguing because it's a very big move that a lot of us are really craving at this point, right? So let's just take a look. Without any further ado, they saw this trade proposal from a Canucks fan. So a Canucks fan posted this originally. It's Josh Anderson, Casey DeSmith, David Savard at $1.75 million retained, so I believe that's half retained, for Anthony Beauvillier, Tyler Myers, a top 10 protected first, and if it doesn't convey in 2024, to move on to an unprotected 2025 first, and a 2025 third. So, let's discuss this. The main part of this trade is essentially you're trying to get rid of Josh Anderson's big contract that's $5.5 million for multiple years. I think it's another 4 years, 3 years, something like that from Montreal. And what you're getting back, well, I mean, obviously sending Casey DeSmith and David Savard along with him, what you're getting back is two guys on expiring deals in Tyler Myers and Anthony Beauvillier, plus a first-round pick and a third-round pick. So what are the benefits for Montreal in this trade? As we show the trade once again, well, the benefits are, if you're of the mind that Josh Anderson's contract is not good and it might capstrap the team, sure. Casey DeSmith, okay, you send him out, you rock with Jake Allen and Sam Montembeault this year. And David Savard, you retain that $1.75 million and you just let him go again to open up some spots for your defense. And you get back Anthony Beauvillier, who's a Quebec native and actually had a really solid stint with the Canucks there. You see, once he was traded in that Bo Horvat deal to the Canucks from the Islanders, in 16 fewer games, he put up identical production to what he was putting up with the Islanders, which is much closer to his career averages, right? If you look at that, it basically extrapolates back to that 2019-20 season when we thought, hey, he's about ready to break out very soon. So Beauvillier has some potential, but the problem is he's making about $4 million this year. Tyler Myers, at this point, again, I say they free up that right D spot because Savard does have one extra year over someone like Tyler Myers, but Myers is making $5 million, and you just got rid of Petrie for the same reason. Now, so, in essence, you're opening up a defense spot 1 year sooner. You're getting rid of Josh Anderson's bad contract, and you're getting a first-round pick that could end up being unprotected if Vancouver decides to go full rebuild next year or 2 years from now, whenever it is. Maybe. But I have a big problem with this. And my big problem is that I don't see how the salary makes sense for Montreal. We spoke a lot about how Kent Hughes is working his butt off to try and get under the salary cap for this year so that they're not locked into Carey Price being on off-season LTIR. Having the roster space, the salary cap space for Carey Price's $10.5 million contract once the regular season starts is invaluable because it'll give the Habs about $10 million over the salary cap that they can use. But if you take on Tyler Myers and Anthony Beauvillier and you retain $1.75 million on David Savard's contract, you're retaining over $10 million. You just take on $10 million, and what do you ship out? Definitely not that much. You're shipping out, what, like 8, and you're taking on 10? Yeah, you get a first-round pick. But, again, if Vancouver gets Josh Anderson, it would be just because they want to go all in, right? Maybe they're scared of some of their young guys, like Quinn Hughes, deciding to leave in free agency or something, or look around for other options. Maybe they're afraid of that, and they want to go all in now. That was the reasoning I saw behind this tweet from a Canucks fan saying, hey, if we want to go all in, this actually isn't that bad. We don't really care about Myers, Beauvillier's meh, and we give up a pick, and if we're going all in, it doesn't matter. But if Vancouver's trying to win with this deal, that first-round pick's going to be mid-round, maybe late round, and then a third is really not that much. And at that point, what is the benefit for Montreal when you're getting rid of Josh Anderson, who all things considered would actually be a great fit with the Vancouver Canucks, but you're getting rid of a solid power forward who's capable of putting up 20, 25 goals every single year, who's making about $5.5 million, which is going to look like a lot better contract once the cap goes up, and you're taking on 2 expiring deals just to get a first-round pick. I just really don't see the value that's there. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below, because to me, this is just completely absurd. People were arguing, oh yeah, Montreal should take this in a heartbeat, and Vancouver fans were like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. And I said, no, I don't think this makes sense for either team, really. I mean, well, maybe Vancouver more than Montreal, but I just don't see it. Let me know your thoughts, because this was just wild. Topic number 2 today. We got to get back into Mattias Norlinder. So if you watched our video the other day, you'd know that we said Mattias Norlinder is heading back to Sweden. Some reports said that, I think it was Grant McCagg, because of course it was, a somewhat unreliable source, but sometimes he's reliable, sometimes he's not. Maybe more often not, but whatever. But they said Mattias Norlinder is heading back to Sweden and don't expect the Montreal Canadiens to re-sign him. But a new article came out today. It is in French, but I'll translate. There was a recent rumor talking about Mattias Norlinder returning to Sweden after just one full season with the Laval Rocket. They said Norlinder is participating in training camp in Frölunda, his Swedish Hockey League team, but in principle, he should be in Quebec for the Habs training camp come this year. They said that's at least the information they got from the organization by the agent of the young left D-man. So Mattias Norlinder's not going anywhere. He's staying in Quebec and by all accounts is going to be playing with Laval this season. And honestly, I think this is good. I understand a lot of you guys definitely were like, all right, time to give up on Mattias Norlinder. And hey, fair enough. I mean, he hasn't really turned out the way you guys want him to. And I mean, same for me. It's not just you, it's me, it's all of us, right? We thought he was going to be so amazing. Norris Linder, all these memes, all this stuff. He was a little overhyped, but hey, you wanted to see him succeed. But here he is, getting another chance in Laval. He's not heading back to Sweden. But this certainly, you have to think, is going to be a make or break season for him. I believe this is the last year of that rookie deal. So Mattias Norlinder is going to have a lot to prove this year. Seeing he's back in Laval is good news for him. I think good news for us to see what he can do, give that final chance, because with the Habs' defensive depth, it's going to be tough. Because one, he's probably not going to get the amount of playing time that he wants unless he really proves himself. And two, the odds of him making the NHL roster, especially with the Habs' insane depth at left D, is pretty poor. So maybe you think if he can garner up some value in Laval, maybe the Habs can use him as a trade piece in one of the probably many trades they're going to be looking to do this year. But regardless, it's very interesting news. Just figured we had to update you on that whole situation because, yeah, he's sticking around after all. Final thing today, we're going to stick talking about the left-hand defenseman of the Habs, but are there too many? Well, too many is subjective, right? I mean, my gut says, yeah, there's too many. You got to trade some of these guys, and I think that still holds true. You can't keep all of these prospects, right? Your Laval team can be as stacked as you want, but you might have a lot of guys with NHL potential that could thrive on other teams. So, yes, the answer to that is yes. But then, if that's the answer, what is the solution? Well, if even like half the Habs D prospects turn out the way we want them to, the Habs could have a solid 6 defensemen within the next year or two. And what's going to happen now to these veterans that are still there? David Savard, I mean, if he doesn't get traded in that crazy Vancouver mock trade, that's definitely not going to happen. He'll still be here this year and next year. Same with Mike Matheson. And in a recent mailbag from Arber and Gosse, it's actually a few weeks old, but I just kind of caught wind of this today. Oh, not that one. My apologies. The 2024-25 trade deadline will likely be very interesting. If David Savard is still here, he'll more than likely be available as a rental, and Mike Matheson will have one more year left on his contract, making him a potentially valuable trade chip on a very affordable contract. So they say, yeah, trading would leave the Habs with a very young blue line, but it would be one of decent amount of experience at that point, one that'll have grown together in the NHL. So this is, again, pure speculation, not even this season, but for next season. But he's very right. Look at the amount of young defensemen the Habs have now, and look how much experience they're getting already. Guys like Justin Barron, Arber, Xhekaj, Jordan Harris, Cayden, Guhle. Coming this season at some point, we're probably going to see Lane Hudson, Jonathan Kovacevic, not as young as the others, but still getting lots of experience, right? There's so many guys who will have that NHL experience who are just going to improve year after year. And Mike Matheson, he proved last year, he's one of the top left defensemen in the NHL. I mean, maybe not top 5 or anything, but man, he proved himself that he has the capability to truly be a first-pairing left-handed defenseman. The offensive upside for him is incredible, and any contending team will want someone like him to quarterback their power play. So could he be traded in 2024-25? I think of all the possibilities, I think the Habs are going to look to trade some of their young guys in Laval, maybe even some of the guys currently on the team, to bolster their forwards, because they need more forwards at this point than they do extra defensemen. So maybe you try and trade maybe someone you just acquired like Gustav Lindstrom, or maybe you open the door to maybe trading someone like a Justin Barron again, or I'm not even sure, right? Or even like a Logan Mailloux. You don't know. But what they do know is that if Mike Matheson, right, he doesn't really line up with the timeline with the other guys, So could he be a valuable trade piece? I think so, and I think the Habs would get a very, very solid return for him. I don't think he moves this year. I think keeping him around with the young guys, letting him teach them the ins and outs of the power play is a good idea. But come the next year, we just don't know. I think he might just get moved, and yeah, I think there's a lot of, I don't want to say turmoil, but I think there'll be a lot of changes coming for the Montreal defensemen. That'll do it for this news edition of Habs Digest. If you enjoyed, leave a like, comment, subscribe to the channel. We're on the road to 10,000. We really appreciate your support. I'm Josh Gosse. We'll catch you in the next one.